Hey guys, today we are going to determine whether the inverse of a function is a function, okay? So determine whether the inverse is a function, and if so, we're going to find the inverse. Regardless, we're still going to find the inverse, even if it's not a function. I want to show you guys how to do this. So our function is f of x is equal to x squared plus 7, okay? Now, if you know what x squared looks like when you graph it, it is a parabola, okay? Anytime you have x to an even power, so to the 4th power, x to the 6th power, x to the 8th power, it's always going to be a parabola, okay? Now, the inverse of these is going to be a parabola on its side, okay? And if you remember from earlier on in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, you learned something called the vertical line test. And if a vertical line passes through a graph more than once, it is not a function. So this one would be not a function, this one would be not a function, and this one would be not a function because it passes through twice. All right, or you could just think of it as the horizontal line test. And if it doesn't pass the horizontal line test, the inverse is not a function, okay? So on this one, because 2 is even, the inverse is not a function. The inverse is not a function. All right. And if we see that it's not a function, and they ask, determine whether the inverse is a function, you could just say no. All right. But if they give you a little more information, such as that x is greater than or equal to 0, well, that puts some restriction on this and actually allows the inverse of this to be a function. So let's find the inverse. So y equals x squared plus 7. Swap x and y. X is equal to y squared plus 7. Subtract 7, subtract 7. So x minus 7 equals y squared. Take the square root of both sides. So y is equal to the square root of x minus 7 when x is greater than or equal to 0. So if you see this part, even if this is even, even if the exponent is even, as long as x is greater than or equal to 0, then it can be a function. The inverse can be a function. So this one I would say yes.